Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this Wednesday evening stream. Kevin, let's go, let's go, let's go. That's the enthusiasm that I like to hear, mate. Thank you so much. All right, okay. So this is midweek. We're in the last few weeks of the year now, and we're heading up into Christmas, and I'm sure that everyone's kind of looking forward to the break. But we've also got Black Friday and everything coming along fairly shortly. So I thought I'd bring on Andy Webb. Now, Andy, if you don't know Andy, he's got a YouTube channel here, which I will link a bit later on. You definitely need to go follow his channel. He's also got a really good column in Metro every Monday that comes out weekly. But I thought I'd bring Andy on to talk about first and foremost how you can avoid getting ripped off in Black Friday, because that's clearly going to be a big thing for Christmas shopping and gifts and all of that good stuff. We're also going to be talking about, obviously, the recent inflation numbers. I mean, inflation at 5% by the time we hit April next year. That's obviously a really, really big deal. That's going to impact people and their finances. So maybe some of his tips and his ideas around that and how to basically cope. But yeah, I'm going to bring on Andy right now. Andy, thank you so much, mate. Taking the
Hello,
time
Peter.
out.
You all right, mate?
Come on. I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Very, very, very good. Great to
Good.
be here.
And how's the column coming?
Yeah, it's great. So I started that in September, and it's been really lovely. I mean, I'm obviously, because I've got my website as well, so I'm writing content all the time and creating this new stuff. But I can see how there's going to be a challenge at some point trying to keep it fresh, because I write it a week before it goes live. So trying to keep it topical when you're writing it a week in advance isn't always the easiest thing, but it's lovely to do. And also it gives me the opportunity to kind of give a shout out to other personal finance content creators who I think are worth following, because we know there's a lot of people out there. Been a big boom of people doing what we do over the last 18, 20 months. And not all of them necessarily know what they're talking about or can be trusted. So this is an opportunity for me to say, hey, look, these people over here, they do know what they're talking about. And it was lovely to feature you this week, which was great.
I appreciate it, mate. It's really, really good. And it's nice to kind of get mentioned and stuff like that. I've done a little bit more with like Daily Express and all that kind of stuff. That's all very good to get into the public domain and media and stuff like that as well. So thanks for the exposure and everything. For people who don't know you, can you just give a brief rundown of what you actually do? Because you mentioned your website and your blog there. It is a huge blog, very, very popular. So for the people who don't know, can you give a brief introduction to you and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is in TV production. I worked on programs like Crime Watch, if you remember that, and The Culture Show and Match of the Day, things like that. But then about 8 years ago, I decided on a bit of a career change, and I set up becleverwithyourcash.com, which is my website, my blog. And it was always meant to be a bit of a side hustle, something on the side, but it's grown into my full-time job. That and the things I do around it, like the YouTube channel and the Cash Chats podcast. That's what I do full-time now. And I feel really, really, really lucky to do this, because this is what I do anyway. You know, I absolutely, when I write about something or make a video about something, it's because I'm doing it myself, or I've tried it out myself. So yeah, really lucky to be able to doing this. So the website's just grown and grown and grown. Should be looking at least 2.5 million views this year, which is fantastic.
That was 1 million last year, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's
wow,
it's fantastic.
It's doubled and some.
It's really, really growing, and if it carries on at the rate it is now, you know, next year maybe that'd be more than 3 million. It's really exciting to do that, and you know, it's great that it can sort of be my income. So I can write about what I want to write. I can create the content that I want to write. I don't take any sponsored content at all. So I'm kind of really, that independence is. I'm lucky to be in that position where I don't have to make those decisions. I can just write stuff and I can say stuff. Sometimes that pisses people off, but I think that the best thing for the consumers is what's important.
Absolutely. No, that's incredible, because I remember you saying last year it was like 1 million to 2.5 million is incredible. It's absolutely insane. So there was a couple of comments in here. Kevin saying, I've got to pop this up before we get started. Black Friday is extra exciting for me because it's the first time Black Friday we've had when I've actually owned a whole Amazon share. They tend to do okay. Now, actually, there's a couple of things I do want to mention, because you have abstained from Amazon first and foremost, and I do want to give you a shout out, because you did the video on Sky Glass. And I know it did really, really well. I actually watched it, and I actually had a look at it, and I was like, nah, I'm not going to do it. I thought it was really, really interesting, though.
Yeah, Sky Glass is a really interesting one. So again, the channel, Andy Clever Cash channel here on YouTube, it is normally your kind of your personal finance stuff. A lot of focus on the current accounts and savings accounts and credit scores and those kind of things. But my started off on here, it wasn't that kind of consumer stuff, the money saving kind of things. That's still really vital to everything I do. And the Sky Glass thing, it was really looking at what's it going to cost you from that point of view. So I've brought in a lot of new viewers. It's done really, really well. I mean, if it carries on the rate it is, it's possibly going to be my top video if it in a couple of months' time or something. It's been phenomenal. But yeah, Sky Glass, like some people are going to just want to get it because they love the idea of it. But if you really analyze exactly what it provides and what you're paying for it, I don't think it's as good as the Sky Q service. And I don't think Sky Q is actually worth the money either. I think you should be looking at something like Now TV and streaming. Yeah, you make a few sacrifices, not like for like, but the money you save, you can then put towards so many other things, which would be much, much more beneficial than, having all these channels, which frankly, you're not watching. Not everyone. Some people will be watching the niche channels and stuff, but most of us, we don't need it. We don't need it. Yeah. But yeah, so that was that video has been doing quite well the last few weeks.
Yeah. One thing that I found, which is why I would not get the Sky Glass, is because you need that stable internet connection all the time. Yeah. And where I am, the internet can drop like that. Like some mornings I've got meetings and there's no internet, and it's crazy. And because it's not coming via the dish and it's coming through your Wi-Fi, and the fact that you can't also store the recordings, I think, doesn't work.
Yeah, it's kind of the reasons why Sky is better than Now TV or other streaming services would be because you have got in theory, a more consistent, stable connection because there can be issues with the weather and stuff, but you're not relying on your broadband being live. And then you can record the programs to watch whenever you like for as long as you like. And like just getting rid of that, well, it's like, well, you're getting a fancy TV set, but what else are you getting? Yeah. So I think there's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of interest in this right now, a lot of different videos, but I'm lucky that one of mine has done well.
Good. I want to start with obviously the budget. I want to talk a little bit about that because I think that's an interesting subject matter, particularly when you look at where we are right now. I'm really were you surprised that the Bank of England didn't increase the rates? Because I actually did. I actually scheduled a video in full anticipation that they were going to increase the rates. Then obviously before I went live, I went to go check and it's like, no, they stayed still. Was that a surprise to you?
Oh, so what was a live video or had you made the video? Or were you going live?
I was going live. So I already done the thumbnail, the title and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, come on,
man. But at least you hadn't made the video, you had it sitting there ready to go. I mean, it was a surprise simply because most of the kind of commentators and economists and the media, even the kind of the members of the Bank of England Monetary Committee themselves were kind of all sort of saying, this is going to happen. We are going to see an increase. That was a week ago, last Thursday. So when it didn't happen, if I was like, oh, but I've been doing this long enough now that there's always this kind of interest rates are going to go up or they're going to go down. They're going to be negative interest rates. They're going to be, and it doesn't always happen when they say it's going to happen. Now, I do think it will go up. The amount of kind of people who know a lot more about this stuff than me who are saying it will, I think it's going to have to, but there is no guarantee. But it does look like the next one is on, I think, December the 16th. And that is when, again, we don't know, but the expectation is it will jump up from the rate it is now, 0.1%, which is the lowest it's ever been. It's been there since the start of the pandemic, to 0.25%. And then bit by bit gradually increased to potentially around 1% in a year's time. So we're still talking relatively low in comparison to where it's been, pre the financial crash at the end of the noughties. But yeah, it looks like it should be happening. And obviously there will be sort of knock-on effects there in terms of, well, mortgages is a big one. Savings is also one that can be impacted, but when that will happen is another matter.
On the savings, are you finding anything online at the moment that kind of gives, because we talk about better rates. I think I saw something yesterday and it's like, okay, it is a good rate, but in context of what's going on, it's really rubbish. Like I think it was 0.6 or 0.65 or something like that. Are you finding any quirky ways of getting the best out of rates from a saver's point of view?
So I mean, you mentioned at the top here about inflation and this kind of thought that it could hit 5% next year at some point, whether it's spring or later. It could hit 5 and then go down. It might not do that, but it's definitely still at the position now where 3.1%, I think it is.
3.1, yeah.
Recent figures. We'll get the other ones shortly. We'll see what happened for last month. I imagine it would be sort of around that sort of similar thing, if not higher. And there's nothing substantial that's getting you anywhere near 3%. There are a couple of small, tiny regular savers, but you're looking at putting 50 quid away a month.
Yeah.
Great, fantastic. And regular savers are a great way for people who need that kind of system to help them save. If you do it on a regular basis, hence the name, on a monthly basis, they can be quite good. But 50 quid, if you've got a substantial amount of savings, or even if you've got 500 quid or £1,000, that's not going to do anything. So you are frankly looking now at savings absolutely being less than inflation, and that means they are losing value. But I don't think that's a reason to go, oh, well, and what's the point? I'm not going to bother, because you still want to get as best you can and lose as little as you can. If you've got your money languishing in an account that is paying 0.05% or even zero, then you are losing obviously a lot more. So shopping around trying to find the best rate. If you want to, you can kind of do it in like little chunks. So you could put £3,000 over here, £1,000 over here, £5,000 over here, and that will boost what you get. So you could be getting as much as 2% if you do it like that. If you do want to just want to keep it easy, want to whack it all in one place, then what you said there, 0.67% is the best you're getting right now.
Yeah.
Not great.
Yeah, not great. But I think you really good point in just not thinking, well, the rates are rubbish, so I'm not even going to bother. I think, you need to try and eke out as much as you possibly can, where you can, to kind of get yourself in the best position possible. I was going to ask you, because I know that you talk a lot about, cashbacks and using those kind of things. Yeah. Are there any cashback things that people might find interesting, particularly with obviously Black Friday coming around the corner?
Yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah, so I love cashback. I mean, it's all about going back to my sort of money saving days. This is the kind of things where I really kind of sort of used to be doing as a kind of a hobby, if you like, before I started doing it as my job. People don't know about it. This is a great way that you can earn a little bit of money. We're not talking huge amounts of cash here, but a little bit of money each time you do your normal regular spending. Basically, it's passive income, because you're going to buy this thing anyway. And the only change you're making is you're changing the card that you're using to make that payment with, or maybe you're adding in a step to go via a cashback site first of all. And literally it's 2 clicks, 3 clicks to find the store you want and click through to it, rather than going directly to it in the browser. And that all adds up. It really, really does add up. So I think, I would do this all year round, but particularly when you come into, the Black Friday, the Christmas shopping, all this kind of stuff that's going on right now, where you are going to be spending more money. There's obviously a greater chance to earn this stuff. And particularly with the cashback sites, there'll be a lot more promotions going on, because the retailers who are going via the cashback sites, so they're basically, the cashback sites are the middleman between the retailer and us. We're in there. We want to get there. These guys in the middle. Well, the retailer will pay a commission to the cashback site to try and encourage us to go to them rather than somebody else. And the cashback site passes it on. Right now, again, they're going to be pushing a lot more of these higher rates, I imagine, and bonus rates as well, to try and get you to choose retailer A over retailer B. So it can all add up and come back to your pocket. Maybe not instantly, maybe it's a few months down the line. But if you're buying the stuff anyway, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't do this.
Absolutely. So on the whole, when is Black Friday, by the way? I always miss this every single year. I wake up like on the morning, pick up the news in the afternoon, and by then it's like I've missed it, or I'm busy doing something.
So Black Friday, I mean, the history of it is an American sale from the Thanksgiving holidays. Thanksgiving is always the 4th Thursday of November, and then Black Friday is the day after Thanksgiving. So this year it is on the 24th, I want to say, of November.
24th, yeah.
If that is a Friday. And that's when it's taking place. But as anyone who has sort of paid attention to over the last few years, I mean, Boots has already got Black Friday offers on. So I'm getting emails all the time from places saying, here are Black Friday deals. It's stretched out. Some of them will be focused on the day, and often some of the better deals are on, if not Black Friday itself, the week coming into it. Some people will start something now and they'll have these prices going on throughout the month. Now, we can talk more about this, but just because there is a Black Friday sale on, whether it's on the Black Friday itself or in the whole month of November, it doesn't actually mean it's going to be a good deal. It doesn't actually mean it's a good price. And what you're probably, they want to get you. You're fantastic in the fact you don't even know what's going on. Some people, though, will be kind of like really dragged into the hype and really thinking, right, absolutely, I need to, they'll put a little note in their calendar and say, right, this is the day that I have to do all my Christmas shopping. Really get there early to make sure they get, some of the headline price deals or whatever. And they're already caught up to it. They're already been sold on the idea that this is the best thing. But in reality, the best place to be is somewhere between you and those people. A bit of healthy skepticism and a bit of awareness on what really is constituting a good deal and what you really should be spending your money on, what you shouldn't.
Yeah. Okay. So is apart from obviously just being mindful and actually just being, I guess you got to do your homework then, really, haven't you, in terms of what the actual prices of these things are. So you're not, because one of the things that I don't like is you walk into something and be like, oh, it's 20% off, and it's like, okay, but is it really 20% off,
Yeah.
or have you just adjusted the price fashionably in a way so that you can say that it's 20% off?
Oh, they do this all the time. It's so cheeky. Often like Black Friday sales, and it'll happen again this year. Some of the big ones will be like a Dyson Hoover or something like that. And it will have exactly that. It will say 50% off. Was £400, now £200. You're thinking that's an amazing discount. I'm saving 200 quid. I need a Dyson anyway. I wanted a vacuum cleaner. I'll go for this one now. Maybe it was a little bit more expensive than I was willing to pay, but wow, that money I'm saving is fantastic. I'll pay that a little bit more. But often what that price is they're basing on is the RRP, the recommended retail price. And that doesn't mean that's the price it actually has been selling at. And this is where it's really, really cheeky. So again, you might find, particularly this is one, the Hoover example I was given just now. I remember a couple of years ago this was going on. And if you look at price history tools, and we can talk about that more in a minute if you like, you look at those, you'll see that actually a week before it was on sale for 230 quid.
Right.
So really what you're saving is 30 quid, not 200 quid. Now, it was still the lowest price it ever been. It still was, if you wanted that item, the cheapest it could have been. And that's great if you know you want that particular one and you're after it. But if you're swayed by something, by the size of the discount, if you get excited by just how much money you're saving, then that can be pretty dangerous.
So how do you find the price history tools that you're talking about there? How do they actually generally work? Can you just plug in sort of, a purchase item of this and it gives you the range of what it's sold for across a number of retailers or for specific retailers?
Yeah, so there are a few of them that are worth looking at. There's one which just focuses on Amazon, purely on Amazon. And remind me, let's come and talk about Amazon again in a minute. Purely on Amazon. And it's called Camel.
Okay.
And it's a website you can go to, or you can get a little Chrome plug into your browser, and you can type in the item you're looking at, and it will tell you the complete history on Amazon of that product. And it's really interesting. Sometimes it's like a wave. You see the up and the down, and you can kind of go, oh, look, well, actually, this is not the lowest it's ever been, or it is the lowest it's been, or actually, looking at the cycle, if I wait another month, then maybe it will go back down to this lower price. It's not just Black Friday this is useful, it's useful all year round. So that's for Amazon. There is another one which is pretty good called Price Spy. This is a price comparison site anyway. So if you're looking for something, it's good to go and have a look, put it in there and see what different retailers are selling it for. You don't get all the retailers. Some of them will block these sites, but it gives you a good idea. And again, you can go into there, you can click on a little graph, and it will show you that sort of flow of prices up and down. And also what I really like about Price Spy is that if you go into it, let's say it's got Argos in the list, you can click on it, the little arrow, and it will drop down and it will show you the price history at Argos.
Right, okay.
So you know exactly for that particular retailer when the prices have changed, how much it's changed, when it goes up and down. And I think they're really, really useful. These sites as well are pretty good as well, because you can also use them to set price alerts. Okay. So you've done your homework.
If something drops below a certain amount, you'll get a ping.
Yeah, and what I like about that is sometimes we spend money we shouldn't be spending just because we're browsing.
Yeah.
But if we know there's a specific item we want, we absolutely just want that. We know how much we want to pay for it. Set the alert. If it goes below that price, you get the email, you go in, and then you just buy that. You don't get caught in the other deals that are on offer, the other promotions. Maybe, yes, every now and again you'll miss out on something you wanted if you don't do that. But it helps you kind of, again, avoid that kind of accidental overspend or buying things you really don't need.
Yeah. And it is easy to spend whilst browsing. Yeah. Let's talk about Amazon, because I have bought a lot on Amazon this year. I mean, all of my cameras, my lights, my microphones, all of the tech gear, apart from maybe the Mac that I use, has all come from Amazon. And it is just so simple, even for returns. Really, really simple. But you've abstained from it. Why is that?
So I'm the same as you. So the kit I'm using right now, my microphone, my stand, the lights I've got, they were from Amazon. I'm probably got other things as well. I'm sure there's other things I've got from Amazon. I was and have been a Prime member for, well, when did they introduce Prime? I managed to get a deal, so I got the student price. So I was paying only 40 quid a year, and that was pretty decent
Nice.
for it. And I got that, and I could have kept going. I could still be paying that half price now, but I decided, I decided before that. But on 1st of January of 2021, I started my no Amazon spend year without Amazon, and this was for various reasons. Initially, my sort of reasoning for starting this was partially sort of ethical in terms of Amazon itself, not necessarily being the best company in terms of paying a fair rate of tax, in terms of potentially how it treats employees. Also kind of sort of worries about the high street, and kind of like, how much of the sort of spend in the UK as a percentage of it goes towards Amazon and other online retailers, and not to the high street. So those kind of things, that's why I wanted to do it. I thought it's a challenge. Can I avoid Amazon for an entire year? We're now nearly over. There's a month and a half left. I have not spent a single penny directly with Amazon. It's been so easy to avoid doing it.
Really?
So easy. And
is that because you've managed to put things in place to kind of make it easy, or is it just generally it's not there, I didn't think about it, so therefore I just found an alternative quite easily?
Yes, there's a few things. That one, I think there's also an element of maybe as I'm getting a little bit older, I mean, buying less anyway. So it's not kind of like so much things I need. So that obviously has helped. But also a little bit of planning. If you look back at my Amazon purchases from previous years, a lot of the time it's like, okay, it's my nephew's birthday and I haven't got something. I need to get it sent to them quickly, tomorrow. Those kind of things. So it's just planning in advance, and it saves so much of that kind of Amazon purchasing. And then just shopping around. We talked about those price comparison sites before. When I wanted to buy something, I've had a look, and obviously because I'm recording this and keeping track of this for the challenge for the blog and everything, a lot of the time, in fact, the majority of time I found stuff, it's either been the same price or it's been cheaper. So I've actually saved money on the purchases I've made overall.
You mean than Amazon?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Now, there will be some things that potentially, if I was using Amazon, I might have spotted something at a certain price. A bottle of gin, sometimes, a special offer, deal of the day, and a gin was discounted. And maybe if I bought it at that time when it was on offer, it might have been a quid cheaper than when I got it actually on offer in Waitrose 3 months later or something, that kind of thing. So I could have maybe saved. There would have been some things which might have been a bit cheaper. There might have been the odd £5 off promo that I could have used. But, and this is the other really interesting thing that I've learned this year, by using Amazon and by having Amazon Prime in particular, it made me buy things that I didn't need or didn't need right then. And this is me. Like, I'm a really, this is what I do. I love this stuff. I'm a really savvy guy. I'm all about not wasting money and not buying things you don't need to buy. But there's something about going onto Amazon, and I call it doom scrolling for deals, right? You go on there, deal of the day, and you just scroll and you scroll and you scroll and you scroll and you keep scrolling. You're looking at all these random things that you don't even know what they are, let alone if you want them. But something will pop up and you'll go, oh, well, maybe in, when I do finish that bottle of gin, I will need another one. So I'll get this one now. And frankly, I've still got bottles that I bought last year out there that I've not touched. And there will be someone has something like that. And Amazon kind of helps you do it. Plus, in your head, you've got this idea with Prime that you've got free delivery. So you're more likely
and it's next day delivery as well. Yeah.
And you'll go to them, first of all, first instance, that's the reason you go there, because you've already got it. It's free. But actually, and this is what I've discovered this year was one of the biggest surprises. So not having Amazon Prime, taking that money out of my annual spend. And I thought, right, do you know what? That's going to get eaten up by delivery costs elsewhere. It hasn't. Lots of retailers will still give you the free delivery. Maybe it's a couple of days later. Maybe you have to go and collect it. But it's not actually, for most people, that difficult. I appreciate some people, they might be housebound. They might not have the ability to get away, and they do require regular deliveries to their home. But for most of us, we can wait a couple of days, particularly if we plan, or we can go and pick it up. It really was a huge revelation. The only time that I've struggled with not having Amazon this year was because they had the US Open tennis on there, and they're going to have some Premiership football next month. But fortunately, Channel 4 put the final on, so I could watch Emma Raducanu's final without having to pay any money. And when we get to November and the Palace game at the end of December, I think it is actually, 30-day free trial that I can still take out. So I'll do that. So I won't have spent any money, or I'll go to the pub and hopefully I'll find someone who's showing it there. But this is, I mean, this is the kind of, I've become kind of so convinced of this, but I think people should be ditching Amazon Prime. Doesn't mean you can't shop at Amazon, but it just will mean when you do it, you're more conscious of your spending there. You know, you're doing it when you need to. And maybe if there's a big stuff coming up, you pay for 1 month rather than a year, cancel it, sign up again in 4 months. I think it will save people money. You'll buy less stuff and you'll save money as a result. I think that was a long rant there. Sorry.
I will definitely second some of what you said there, though, because I remember, I think it was night before last, I was on Amazon and I can't remember, what was I looking at? I was looking at something else that I need to get for the podcast. And as you do, you don't just look at the one thing that you want to buy. I started scrolling and I came across this really nice leather desk mat for like my keyboard and my mouse, and it looked really nice. The video looked really nice, and it had one little feature that pulled me, and I was like, I'm gonna buy this. And naturally, I get pulled into the detail of what it is and not the price. So I was like, oh, this is really, really good, and like thinking it's gonna be like 10 quid or something like that. I almost pressed buy. Looks like, okay, how much is this thing? 100 quid. And I just thought, nah, I'm not doing it. But it is so easy to do. It's just so easy to do. Yeah, I just add that. And all of a sudden you're gone. And I guess that's the Amazon effect. It's the whole thing of like, it's convenient, it's easy. You get the delivery tomorrow. So it satisfies all of those human kind of quirks and behaviors that we're used to and habits that we're used to now.
Yeah, it really is. And I think a lot of the things that they'll do on there as well, the little tricks to kind of encourage you to sort of buy it now, lightning deals in particular, there'll be a lot of those over the next few weeks that we'll be seeing, that countdown clock. Kind of encourage you to buy it before you even think about it. Because if you don't, it's gone. And then you'll miss out on that bargain, on that cheap price. So it's kind of really sort of trying to think about, do you really need to, before you even start looking, have a list of what you need before the sales, whether it's presents for other people or stuff for yourself. Put a note on your phone and then only buy the stuff that you've written down, because if you haven't written down, you don't need it.
True. Yeah.
Ultimately. And you're spending money that, do you know what? Hey, if you've got plenty of money and you can afford it, by all means, go for it. But going back to what we were saying before about inflation, you know, potentially sort of getting higher and higher, the cost of living getting higher and higher, energy bills, you know, they're absolutely massive right now, and that potentially could continue as well. Kind of makes sense to kind of just sort of rationalize things a little bit and go, right, if I'm going to have to pay more for everything from my baked beans through to my petrol, through to, you name it, meals out, whatever it is, things that you kind of want to spend your money on, let's try and eradicate the stuff for now, at least, that we don't need to spend money on. And then if things get back to normal and there's a great price and we're feeling flush, we're feeling comfortable, then we can look at, you know, making those purchases.
Yeah, I've been surprised by the amount of companies the energy companies that have gone bust. I mean, I was with People's Energy, they're gone. So all of a sudden, the thing is, I went from British Gas to People's Energy to save money. I'm now back with British Gas now, and it's like I think there's 3 or 4 of them that have basically gone bust as a result of obviously energy prices and all this stuff. It's you talk about inflation, it's going to hit people. They were talking about my direct debit increasing by double. I'm like, no, absolutely not. You know,
this is crazy. There's actually 17 companies that have gone bust, and there's
17.
Since September. Wow. I think there were a couple at the start of the year as well. And there's potential for Bulb to go under any day or week now. It might not, but that's a really, Bulb are big. They're kind of like maybe the 7th biggest company outside the big 6. We're talking as many people affected by the companies already going under, also then being impacted by the one company going under. I think it's something like 1.7 million households or something bonkers like that. Huge number of people who could be affected, but so there's already those people who have. And like you, they found that they might have found this great deal, this price, doing the smart thing, shopping around and getting a fix, so they're paying as little as they possibly can, and then being pushed back to another company. So you're back with British Gas and you're on a variable rate and you're on a high variable rate tariff because that price cap has pushed up. So yeah, you're saying your direct debit's gone up. Yeah. And that's going to happen to everybody else. And you can't really do anything about it. You can't switch to anyone else and fix with anyone else. Well, you can do that. You can fix with your company still. You can fix with someone else still. But they've whacked those prices really high because the companies are losing out in real terms on what they're paying for energy. So they're trying to get the money wherever they can. So bizarrely, this is the only time sort of ever been saying this, the best tariff is the variable rate tariff, and it is going to be more expensive than what you were paying on your old company, or if your fix comes to an end in the next sort of 3 or 4 months. So you can't really reduce it other than use less energy. So, you know, have the heat in the thermostat, a degree down on the thermostat, you know, not having the lights on. I mean, there's little things, but unfortunately, that's all you can do right now. I mean, in fact, insulating your home, that's a really good thing to be thinking about as much as you can. Those little gaps, the little drafts that you've got, that can be done relatively cheaply. It's not like it's going to be a vast expense to get those things done. And they will make some difference to your bills, but there'll still be more.
Do you envisage the deals drying up in terms, because obviously, especially in any industry, the more players you have in that sector, the more competitive things become, because all of a sudden you don't have massive conglomerates who control the price of things and be like, you know what, we're going to charge you this, there's nothing you can do about it. And I think that's the sad thing about, I honestly thought there were 4, not 17. That's a sad thing about 17 companies going bust, because now you're going to have the British Gases of this world who'll be like, well, we're going to set the price at this level. Are you seeing deals kind of like drying up or not being as many as there were before?
Yeah, I mean, so there has been kind of speculation that once this is all over, the energy crisis, once it's over, we could end up with just back to the big old 6 companies that we had before, which whenever it was, they kind of again opened it up to try and sort of encourage competition. Now, that's not always worked out. As this has shown, if this hadn't happened, there still were smaller energy companies every now and again, you know, going bust because they were trying to undercut the market too much and weren't able to you know, properly provide the service. But yeah, I mean, I would have thought that we will see definitely a lot less companies, and then as a result, yeah, potentially that competition for the lowest prices could disappear. I mean, the energy price cap, as it stands, that already, when they put it in, it was to stop companies go above it, but pretty much all those companies went to it, so they increased their prices to the cap. That was the most they can charge, so that's what they would charge for those variable rate ones. And if the cap does continue, don't know if it will, it might change how it is and what format it's in. But if it does continue, then we'll see that. And it just depends whether the fix is. If there's only 6 people competing on fixes, then maybe you won't get that sort of drive down.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there any other things at the minute in kind of like the finance space that you're finding interesting at the moment?
Yeah. I mean, buy now, pay later is always a really interesting one.
Oh, Kalana. Actually, let's talk about that. Actually,
Yeah.
Because someone asked me this on a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, I don't like it. I don't like it because it doesn't necessarily teach you responsible finances. I literally had a couple of Instagram messages where someone was like, you know, is Kalana a good way of budgeting? And I'm like, it's a terrible way of budgeting. It's the opposite way of budgeting. And because it's a legitimate business model now and it's everywhere across these sites, it's almost impossible to avoid.
It is. And this is where I kind of struggle with this slightly, because I've spent the last 2 years saying, don't use this. Be careful of this. This is not a good way to buy things. There's no real advantage for most people to buy things with Klarna or Lay-Buy or ClearPay or any of these services. There's no real benefit. You're borrowing money. It's still a debt. It might not work in the same way as a credit card or a loan or a payday loan or these things, but it is still a debt. You're still got to pay it back if you keep the items. And what happens is it's so easy. It's too easy to get. So I've been saying that just don't use them. But I'm now trying to work out how the best way to communicate this using them and how they work, because they're not going anywhere. I think they're here to stay. There have been some big players join the market. Monzo is now introducing its own buy now, pay later service.
Oh, really?
Yep.
That's interesting, actually.
Yeah. Curve. I'm a big fan of Curve. If you don't know, it's a smart card, which other cards underlie. I like that. That's got its own buy now, pay later service. Bizarrely, they both launched the same week and they're both called Flex. So their marketing teams must have been like, although it's not as bad as my local gym sending out emails saying, do you want a free course of Delta, which was the course of the name of their new sort of fitness course, at the same time that all the news was about the Delta virus. Like, no, not for me. Thank you very much. But anyway, so buy now, pay later. it's here to stay. Revolut are working on something as well, and I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the other big banks, they're going to be thinking, right, we can get some money here, we can make money here. Let's all get on it. So I mean, I need to find out my best way of explaining this to people, that if you are going to use it, exactly what it is, and if you are going to use it, how you avoid the pitfalls of serving them. Because I think it's going to become more dominant. It's just it's regulation is on its way. There is going to be regulation of it, and that might tighten things up. That might make it better for the most vulnerable consumers. So those people who are using it without really fully understanding it and then getting into trouble as a result, hopefully that will be minimized by regulation. But there'll still be lots of people who, it might not get them with the bailiffs knocking on the door, but it might get them in a bad position, which could be avoided if they just paid for stuff. Save now, save it and buy it when you can afford it. That's what everyone we should be doing, rather than whacking stuff on credit. And this just makes it too easy.
I think the unfortunate thing about things like Klarna and stuff like that is that people just assume because it's 0% that it's free. And it's like, well, no. And I had a whole story. I think someone was telling me a story. At the same time, they asked me that question. They asked me that question because they knew someone who bought something with Klarna, returned the item to the retailer, but because the retailer hadn't communicated with Klarna, the refund didn't go through. The customer thought, it's fine. Klarna then started sending letters, and it's like, hang on a second, I returned the item, and just that line of communication wasn't there. So she ended up with being stressed out, the fact that, hang on a second, I've sent this back and having to spend more time on it. But the fact that people think it's 0%, so it's cool. I think that's the dangerous thing. And you're right. It's about how do you communicate it in a way that people kind of grasp how it basically works and see the pros and the cons of it. I don't know. Maybe because I'm in a place where I don't ever use those kind of facilities anymore. I'm like, it's a no-brainer, just don't use it. But I fully appreciate that for some people, actually, it is a lifeline. And the unfortunate thing is the banks will take advantage of it. And when you think about the regulator always moves too late. My fear is by the time the regulation comes in, they would have taken advantage of all of the people that they could have, and then they'll retroactively be like, okay, we'll just adjust this now. But the damage is already done.
Yeah. And the people who are using it responsibly, and they think there's no harm in it, actually, when you look into the figures and the reports and the research that's out there, we might not be paying for it. It's a free service to us. But actually what it does, and they have this on their own marketing a lot of the time, they're selling it to brands, so you put them on their website, it actually increases the basket size massively.
Oh, right, okay.
They're going to spend more money because buy now, pay later. And people have the intention, I'll get these and I'll only keep one of them and I'll send something back. And they don't. And they end up keeping them all, and they spent all that more money than they could afford. And eventually they are going to pay for it. They will pay for it all. But at the time they think it's not going to be that way. But it's not good for the vast majority of us, even if we're using it responsibly. It's going to be very, very few benefits to it. But like I say, it's here. So it's just about working out how best to help people understand all that.
Yeah, I didn't think of it in that way, actually, but you're right. Actually, if you're going to buy one thing and it's like, no, I can pay for this later on, of course, you're going to add a few other things, and actually works in favor of the retailer as well. If they're really, really clever in how their website and how their offers are set up and promoted, very, very clever, actually. So, yeah, interesting. Is there anything else that you've noticed?
What, on buy now, pay later or elsewhere?
On just generally in kind of like the finance space in general.
Oh man, there's just so much going on, isn't there? There's we can talk about so much. I think if we're talking about savings and current accounts and stuff like that, which I do quite a lot, there is an interesting survey I saw this week that sort of showed that 1 in 4 people are still leaving their savings in their current account, and not a current account that pays a little bit extra. They're just keeping all their money in there. And I think that's kind of one of those things which is it's not just about you're losing money on your interest, but it comes through to all those kind of simple budgeting things that I know you spoke about a lot on the channel as well. But those things about paying yourself first, separating your stuff out. There's still a huge number of people where we really can help with those kind of real building blocks. Those kind of how to start off, get an understanding of where your money sits, and then make the most of it after you've done that. And sometimes I think we have to remember to sort of take that step back, not get too excited. I can be guilty of this, of getting too excited about this little trick here. If you do this, then you do this, then you'll get this much here and this much there. But sometimes I think, actually, let's remember to sort of bring it back a bit and let's kind of just focus on, right, okay, do you know the difference between a current account and a savings account? I get questions where people don't know that and say, sorry for the stupid question. I'm like, no, it's not a stupid question. None of these questions are stupid. They're all really valid and they're really important, because if you wait, you don't get taught it at school. You don't get this information, doesn't come through. You have to find out yourself. So I think there's a lot of stuff going on right now, and I think the financial education sort of space as well right now feels like it's in quite a strong, independently quite a strong place. And I hope we're trying to get sort of that kind of knowledge out to people and upskill their kind of confidence, really.
Yeah, on the financial education piece, I've certainly seen, and you'll probably be able to attest to this even more than I can, because obviously you run UK money bloggers and you've seen a massive increase there. But even on places like LinkedIn, there are so many more money coaches, financial coaches now, and it's like it's really encouraging to see, even to the point that I'm seeing some of my old colleagues who are financial advisors who are like, I'm a financial coach now. And I'm like, it's almost like it's a trend that's become popular all of a sudden. It's like, but I like it because it's really, really needed. It is really, really, really needed. The world of finance is way too complicated and has been for years, and it needs to be simplified.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're very different jobs. I've seen some people do the same thing, go from advisors and planners into coaching. And it's great to have that sort of knowledge to bring with you, but a coach is a very different thing. So I think it's I guess I'm hoping there's people who have sort of gone through the proper sort of training to understand what that is. It's not just sort of light advice. It is actually a way of getting that mindset adjusted and changing that, the approach to money, and helping people have a kind of an awareness of, it goes back to, are you a spender or a saver? But there's so many more levels beyond that to help you really kind of get to the root of the problem. Sometimes, and I do this, it can be very much kind of, I do tend to focus on the people who are broadly already quite savvy, already quite engaged. So I can sort of speak at a certain sort of level and a certain sort of content. But again, one of my most popular videos is first-time credit cards. A lot of people, and that's really important that you get that information right, because credit cards can be good, but they can be bad. And you've got to make sure you're approaching the people on the right topic. It's not just, you could say first-time credit cards. Here are 5 great credit cards, off you go. Actually, you've got to do the education piece with that at the same time. That kind of says, right, if you really want one, if you really need one, you need to be able to do this, X, Y, Z. You need to think about you as a person. Are you going to be able to resist using it just to spend money? Are you going to be able to have the capacity and the confidence to make sure you have the money left elsewhere to spend over? So much more that goes into it. And that's a kind of the balancing act, I think, with all these people.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right on the coaching thing as well. I see that kind of stuff on LinkedIn, and I'm naturally a skeptic, because I'm like, you're a financial advisor. I kind of know a little bit about your business. So why are you now going from here, where you're sitting on, quite handsome recurring incomes, to doing this? And there was one guy that I looked at in particular. He's trying to do it for footballers. And I was like, of course, now you want to get them as clients, obviously. So you're trying to get that in. It's a funny old world. It really, really is.
Yeah. To be talking about footballers, if people were listening, if people are podcast fans, a couple of really interesting episodes this week and last week from the Financial Times Money Clinic podcast, where they're actually talking about footballers and how they manage their money. And it's got people like Sol Campbell and a few others, and they're talking about stuff. Really, really interesting one. But again, they talk about people taking advantage and sort of giving them the advice, being their mate sort of thing, and actually them getting caught up in what turned out to be tax evasion things. They get a big tax bill, and that person's nowhere to be seen, and they've got to sort this all out. But bit of a tangent, but it's an interesting one to check out, as well as obviously Conversations of Money and the Cash Chat. So add it on the playlist.
Add it to the list. Absolutely, absolutely. So let me just close this off. What have you got going on at the minute? How do people find you? How do they contact you if they want to have a little chat and check you out?
Yeah, so lots of ways. Obviously, we're on YouTube right now, so it's Andy Clever Cash. Just search me there, you'll find me. I do a live Q&A on most Tuesdays and that's a good place to come and ask your questions on these kind of things. You can get me live. As long as you're there near the top of the hour, you're more likely to get an answer than people nearer the
What
end.
time is yours? What time is yours typically on a Tuesday?
Normally 7 o'clock on a Tuesday on YouTube and Instagram. So you can watch whichever way you want, but YouTube's the best way to do it.
Cool. So do you stream simultaneously then?
Yeah, I've got my phone sort of set up just here in front of my camera.
Yeah.
And I mainly look at that camera, the proper camera, but sometimes I look down here. But it's just nice to give people that option, you know, if they prefer one platform over another. But yeah, it is much better and easier with YouTube. I don't have to kind of look down and I try and read the writing on my phone because it's really tiny and I scroll back and forth. Much more relaxed. So that's a great place to go. Ask me questions about any of the things we've been speaking about today. But I have becleveryourcash.com. That is the website. And I do a newsletter which comes out every Thursday. And that's where you get the best of everything. So that's if you want to sort of get an introduction to what I do. That will come to your inbox Thursday morning, and you get the blog, the podcast, the YouTube, and the deals of the week that I found as well, the big savings, which I can already see ramping up for the next few weeks. So it's interesting to see how this one compares to other years.
Perfect. Excellent. I appreciate you. My battery's going to die because I was in a meeting prior to this, then I've jumped straight onto this, and it's supposed to be charged simultaneously, but it's not. So yeah, thanks guys for joining. Thank you, Andy, as well, for joining us as well. Appreciate it. I'm going to do another live on Sunday evening. I haven't got a guest yet. I might have Radicon to talk about valuing crypto coins because that's become a huge topic with Shiba Inu and Flocky Inu and all this Inu coins at the moment. So we'll have one on Wednesday. Before I leave, I'm going to play the trailer to my short, which will be on the channel November 22nd. But thank you, Andy, and thank you so much, guys, for joining me this evening. Have an amazing rest of the week. Catch you in a bit, guys. And where is it? There it is. Okay, cool. Cheers, guys. Catch you in a bit. I don't know what to expect. Let's put it that way. I'm going to learn maybe a few things that I didn't even know myself. When I think of my time with NatWest, I think of you, and I remember you. Thank you.